What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we are breaking down my favorite trade targets in fantasy hockey right now. These guys I think you can get for a great price, and it really could pay off in the long run if you trade for them. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. The first player I want to talk about is Minnesota Wild goaltender Filip Gustavsson. Listen, I understand he's been absolutely terrible to start the year, but I do believe he is going to bounce back, and you could probably get him at a great price. I would assume that in some of your leagues he's been dropped already, so I would suggest taking a look at him on the waiver wire, especially if you need a goalie. I understand the concerns around him right now. Him and Fleury are splitting the crease. Fleury is outplaying him. Gustafsson's numbers are terrible, like I said. But still, guys, we have to look at last season and understand that Gustafsson was so much better than Fleury. He put up amazing numbers, and I don't think that he suddenly fell off a cliff. I still think he's a great goalie. If he hasn't been dropped and he's on somebody's team right now, I suggest sending over a couple of offers to that owner, especially if you need a goalie, guys. I understand that trading for goalies is risky, but this is the whole point of buy low situations. You want to buy on players when they are at their lowest. And right now, this is probably the lowest value that Filip Gustavsson is going to have all season. So I say you take the risk and trade for him and see how it plays out. One more thing I want to add to understand the struggles of Filip Gustavsson this year is that the Minnesota Wild have dealt with a number of key injuries this season. Matt Boldy, who's arguably their best defensive forward, has missed most of the year. He's back now, which is great. They've also been missing their captain, Jared Spurgeon, the best defenseman on the Minnesota Wild. So once he is back, which he is slated to return very soon, I expect these goalie numbers to improve. I just wanted to add that context because that could be one reason why Filip Gustavsson is struggling right now. The next player I want to talk about is Pierre-Luc Dubois of the Los Angeles Kings. He currently only has 3 goals and a total of 6 points in 11 games, which isn't great. With that being said, guys, this means it's a perfect opportunity to buy low on him. He is a guy who's been a consistent 60 to 70 point player in the past 2 seasons, and now he's on a better offense, so I still expect him to put up 60 plus points this year. He's playing on a line with Kevin Fiala, even strength, and right now he is on that first line power play with Victor Arvidsson out long term, so I expect him to have some big nights and some big games. I do understand that he's getting less ice time on the Kings than he was on the Jets. This is because the Kings are very deep. They run 3 lines, pretty balanced. So that could be a little bit of an issue, right? That could affect his production for this season, but for me, it doesn't matter considering the deployment that he's getting on a line with Kevin Fiala and on that first line power play. So I would suggest buying low on him. You could probably get him at a great discount right now, so I suggest you do. Next up is Mike Matheson of the Montreal Canadiens, and this isn't a buy low situation because he's been great. He's been putting up great numbers, great peripherals. However, I think a lot of people disrespect Mike Matheson in fantasy. This guy was legit last season, and he's legit this year as well. So before people start to truly catch on that this guy is going to be a top tier fantasy defenseman, I suggest you try to trade for him. Next up, I want to talk about Luke Hughes of the New Jersey Devils, and this isn't a buy low situation because he's been pretty good. He has 7 points in 11 games, and he's getting significant power play time, which people are aware of. He's on that first line power play over Dougie Hamilton. Yes, this could change, but Luke Hughes has been pretty great on this power play, so I expect him to stay on this first unit. With that being said, I think you should trade for him because I think he's going to get better throughout the season. He's still a young player, so you could see him break out in the second half of the year, and he's probably going to have some massive nights on this Devils offense, especially when Jack Hughes is back and healthy. So make sure you trade for Luke Hughes if you can. If you need a defenseman, he's a great target in my opinion. Next up is Patrik Laine of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and this guy's a great buy low candidate in my opinion. The first reason is that he started off really slow. He only had 2 points in 4 games. Very small sample size, but a lot of people weren't impressed with his play. And then the second reason is that he's been out for 2 weeks now, I think. He got concussed from that Rasmus Andersson hit, so there's a chance he misses another couple of weeks. We don't really have a lot of information on his injury right now, but with all of this being considered, he's a great buy low candidate. He's been a point per game player in the last 2 seasons on the Blue Jackets, and if you can fit him on your IR, I suggest buying low on him. Probably the lowest value that he's going to have this season, so yeah, try buying low on Patrik Laine. Next up is Lucas Raymond of the Detroit Red Wings, and I want to say this is not a buy low situation. Raymond has been playing great lately. However, I still think he is a great trade target because he just got moved to the first line power play, and that means there could be a ton of potential for the rest of the season. Raymond's only 21 years old, so there's a chance he could break out this season, and with him being on the first line power play now, playing alongside Alex DeBrincat, a guy that's really helping this Red Wings power play, I think Raymond can put up a ton of points this season. I can't predict the future and whether this deployment is going to stick, but playing on the first line and the first line power play on a team that is looking better than last season is very promising to me. So if you can trade for Lucas Raymond, I suggest you do. Next up is Drake Batherson of the Ottawa Senators, and this one's pretty obvious, guys. He only has 5 points in 10 games. That's an 82 game pace of 41 points. That is not sustainable, guys. If we're looking at the last 2 seasons for Batherson, in the 2021-2022 season, he had 44 points in 46 games. Last year, he had 62 points in 82 games. So this guy has the potential to put up a good amount of points. We also know he's playing on the first line and the first line power play, getting a ton of power play minutes. So once Ottawa starts to figure out how to score goals, Batherson is going to improve. Batherson's value is probably the lowest it is going to be all season. So I suggest you trade for him before it's too late. Next up is Kevin Fiala of the Los Angeles Kings. And I wouldn't say this guy's a buy low. He has 12 points in 11 games, so he's an over point per game player. However, he only has 1 goal in 11 games. His shooting percentage is 3.4% compared to a career rate of 11.2. So you could argue that Kevin Fiala should actually be doing better than he is right now. What we know about Kevin Fiala is that in the last 2 seasons, he's been an over point per game player. So I expect this trend to continue. We also know that Kevin Fiala is a notoriously slow starter. So by trading for him early on when he's starting slow, there's a chance you could reap the benefits in the next couple of weeks. When he starts to pick his game up, we could see some monster weeks and some monster games from Fiala in the second half of the season because he's known for being a second half player. So I suggest you trade for Fiala. He's on this amazing Kings offense. He's an incredibly talented player, and he's a guy that's pretty much a lock to be an over point per game player. So send out some trades for him and see if it works out. The next player I want to talk about is Nico Hischier, and this one's pretty obvious, guys. He only has 2 points in 7 games, and he's now injured. He's been out for about a week, I think. He's been injured twice actually this season, so unlucky stuff for Nico Hischier. This is a guy that's on the best offense in the NHL in the New Jersey Devils. He's on the first line power play, playing alongside superstar Jack Hughes. So once he is healthy, I expect him to come back to the numbers that we expect from him. He had 31 goals and a total of 80 points last year in 81 games. He's a very talented player, guys. This is the perfect opportunity to buy low on him. So do it before he starts putting up some points, guys. I promise you, this is a great buy low target. The next player you should target in trades is St. Louis Blues forward Pavel Buchnevich. The Blues have started off terrible. Buchnevich has started off terrible, but I do think he is going to bounce back. So you are able to get an amazing discount on him right now. As I'm recording this, he only has 1 goal and a total of 3 points in 8 games. Very bad stuff. But if we're looking at the last 2 seasons, he's been an over point per game player on the Blues. Last year, he had 67 points in 63 games. The season before, he had 76 points in 73 games. So I'm expecting this pattern to continue. I understand if you're looking at the Blues roster, it does look pretty terrible, but last year it wasn't much better. I mean, they had Ryan O'Reilly, but he wasn't great for the Blues. I don't think that the Blues have that much worse of a roster than last season. So as long as he's still getting top line minutes and on that first line power play, I'm expecting him to be a point per game player. Like I said before, you are able to get an amazing discount on him. So I suggest you trade for him before it's too late. Next up is another St. Louis Blues player. It's Jordan Kyrou. I talked about him in my last video and I'll talk about him again. I think he is an amazing buy low target. And let me tell you why. Right now, he only has 6 points in 10 games, 2 of these points being goals. His shooting percentage is 5.1% compared to a career rate of 13%. So this is going to bounce back. He is a notoriously slow starter. We saw last year he started off super slow as well, and then he bounced back. So I expect this trend to continue. I understand the Blues are not the best team, but he's still getting top line minutes and on the first line power play. And he's actually getting more minutes than he did last season. So I am expecting him to still have some big nights. Just look at his game log from last season, guys. In the second half of the year, he put up some monster games. He's a very talented player, so fast with a great shot. So I still think he's going to put up 35 plus goals, and you are going to get a great discount for him right now. Next up is Clayton Keller of the Arizona Coyotes. He's been pretty good this season, but he's going through a little bit of a mini slump. He has 2 assists and 0 goals in his last 5 games. So I think you're able to get a pretty good discount on a guy that I think is a league winner. Last year, Keller had 37 goals and a total of 86 points in 82 games. He was an over point per game player, and a lot of this production came in the second half of last season. So he was really breaking out, and he was really clicking with his line mates. I expect him to pick it up because I know how good he is. I know how talented he is. I've seen the Coyotes games. he is a guy that I think is going to break 90 points this year. So if you can get a discount on him right now, I really think it's going to pay off. Next up is Mika Zibanejad of the New York Rangers. This guy's also been a notoriously slow starter. And if we're looking at his shooting percentage, it's 6.5%. His career rate is 13.3. So this is surely going to bounce back. He's playing on one of the best teams in the league that has one of the best power plays in the league. So the points will come, guys. Right now, he only has 2 goals in 11 games. So I think there's a good chance you can get a discount for him. Last year, he had 39 goals and a total of 91 points in 82 games. So this guy's absolutely elite. Make sure you send out some trades for Zibanejad while his value is still low, because I guarantee in the next week or two, he's going to have a monster game and there's no way you're going to get a discount for him anymore. So yeah, trade for Zibanejad ASAP. Another amazing buy low target is Tim Stutzle of the Ottawa Senators. He only has 2 goals in 10 games with a measly shooting percentage of 6.3%. This is compared to a 13.7% career rate, so I know he is going to bounce back. Last year as a 20-year-old, this guy had 39 goals and a total of 90 points in 78 games, so he is an elite talent. The Senators have struggled early on, but on paper, they should still be one of the best offensive teams in the NHL, and they still have an elite power play. I expect Stutzle to start scoring and to start producing more. He has 11 points in 10 games, which is good, but I think the lack of goals is the reason you can get a discount for him, so trade for him before it's too late. Next up, we have Tampa Bay Lightning goaltender Andrei Vasilevskiy. We just learned today that he is going to return before December. I think they said right after American Thanksgiving. So if you can trade for him right now, I think it is a very smart move. I don't know how much of a discount you can get for him because Vasi owners probably saw that update today. People might want to hold on to him. However, you're probably getting better value for him on the IR versus him playing. So send out some trades for Vasi, especially if you need a goalie. If you can get a good deal, then I highly suggest you do it. Next up, we have defenseman Brandon Montour of the Florida Panthers. This is a very similar situation to Vasi because today we just got an update that Montour is going to be back within the next week or two. The original timeline we were given was November to January. It's looking like it's going to be November, so this is obviously great news for Montour owners. I still think you're going to be able to get a discount for him because common sense tells me you're going to get better value for a guy that's injured versus a guy that's already playing and putting up points. With that being said, I suggest you send out some trades for Brandon Montour right now. He was one of the best fantasy hockey defensemen last year, and he should still be on this first line power play, which has a lot of value. If you can get a good deal for Montour, it should pay off in the long run. Next up is Matt Boldy of the Minnesota Wild. I told you guys to buy low on him in my last video, and I hope you traded for him. He's no longer a buy low option because he came back from his injury and he's played pretty well so far, but I still think he's a great trade target, and let me tell you why. The reason is pretty simple, guys. He played amazing in the second half of last season, especially in the last 20 games. I think he had 15 goals in his last 20 games. He was on absolute fire. He's a young player who could easily break out, and his deployment is top notch. Right now, he's actually playing on the top line with Kirill Kaprizov and Marco Rossi, and he's playing on the first line power play, getting almost 20 minutes of ice time per game. So this is an elite player with top-notch deployment and breakout potential. I think there's a lot of upside to trading for him, and he hasn't really had a monster game just yet, so I suggest you trade for him before it's too late. The next trade target is Alexander Ovechkin of the Washington Capitals. He only has 2 goals in 10 games and a shooting percentage of 4.7%. This is compared to a career rate of 12.9%, so this is absolutely going to bounce back. I understand that Ovechkin is getting older and the Capitals are no longer one of the best teams in the NHL, but this is a guy that still has top-notch deployment, getting 20 minutes and 11 seconds of ice time per game. He's on both the first and second power play unit, so he's pretty much out there for the entire power play. He's shooting the puck like a madman because he wants to get that goal record, so I do expect him to start scoring more goals. He's no longer going to be one of the best fantasy options in the world, but I think right now you're going to get a discount for him, and he still can put up 40 goals, so make sure you trade for him before he starts having some big games. Next up, we have Jason Robertson of the Dallas Stars. I talked about him in my last buy low video, but he's still a great buy low candidate. He only has 2 goals and a total of 8 points in 10 games. Comparing this to last season, it's very disappointing. He had 46 goals and 109 points in 82 games last year. He was absolutely elite. But one thing that I do want to say is that his shooting percentage this season is only 8% compared to the career rate of 15.4. So I do expect him to bounce back. I think the Stars are just a slow starting team. He's still a very talented player, so I'm going to bet on talent, and I want to trade for a guy like Jason Robertson before it's too late. The next trade target is Kirill Kaprizov of the Minnesota Wild. He only has 3 goals in 11 games, which isn't very good. His shooting percentage is 6.7% compared to a career rate of 15.6, so I am expecting him to bounce back. We know that Kaprizov is one of the best players in the NHL and one of the best fantasy hockey players. I have no doubt in my mind that he is going to bounce back. He's on the top line. He's on the first line power play. And one interesting development I wanted to tell you guys about is Marco Rossi. He's a rookie. He's playing on the first line right now and the first line power play, and he's doing pretty good. I think a big issue with Kaprizov has been Ryan Hartman as his first line center. So if Rossi can prove to be a capable center, this is really going to help Kaprizov. They're still mixing up lines to see what works, but right now they have Matt Boldy on the first line with Kaprizov as well. And you guys know how high I am on Matt Boldy. So if that line sticks, I think Kaprizov is going to put up a ton of points. Regardless what line he's on, we know how talented he is. And also, I do want to say with Matt Boldy as well, Boldy's on that first line power play, and if Boldy can break out, that's going to help Kaprizov's numbers as well. In general, guys, I like to bet on talent, and Kaprizov is one of the most talented players in the NHL, so buy low on this guy before it's too late. The next player I want to tell you guys to trade for is Matthew Tkachuk of the Florida Panthers. He only has 2 goals and a total of 9 points in 10 games. His shooting percentage is 4.3% compared to a career rate of 13%, so he is definitely going to bounce back. We saw how good Tkachuk was on the Panthers last season, and I think a big reason for the slow start is that he suffered a sternum injury in the Stanley Cup Finals. He probably is a little bit rusty. He probably didn't have the best training camp. And also, we know that the Panthers have struggled a lot with injuries this year. Aaron Ekblad, Brandon Montour, the list goes on, guys. The power play has suffered because of that. So once everybody comes back healthy, this is going to benefit Tkachuk. We know how talented he is, guys, so make sure you buy low on him before it's too late. The next player I want you guys to trade for is defenseman Roman Josi. He's definitely bounced back since I made that last buy low video, but I still think you're going to be able to get a great discount for him. So send out some trades, guys. We know he has been one of the best fantasy hockey defensemen, if not the best fantasy hockey defenseman in the last 2 seasons. He's still getting top-notch deployment. He's still such a talented player, so this is a no-brainer, guys. If you can get a good deal for Roman Josi, you need to make that trade. The next buy low target is none other than Connor McDavid of the Edmonton Oilers. I am shocked what I'm seeing online, guys. I've had people message me on Discord asking about McDavid trades. I've had people on Twitter, YouTube comments asking about trading McDavid away. I do not understand what people are thinking and why they are panicking on a guy like McDavid, who is a literal cheat code in fantasy. I did say going into the season that we were going to see some regression with the Oilers power play and with McDavid, but we all know that McDavid is still going to be the best fantasy hockey player, and you do not want to trade him away unless it is an absolutely unreal package. Right now, he only has 2 goals and a total of 10 points in 8 games, but his shooting percentage is 8.7% compared to a 15.5% career rate. So this is going to come back to normal. If you can buy low on McDavid and take him from a panicked owner, then you absolutely need to, even if it means trading 2 top-tier players away. In general, when you're getting the best player in the deal, you are winning that trade, and McDavid is going to single-handedly win you weeks. So buy low on this guy before he has a 4 or 5 point night. The last player I want to talk about is defenseman Miro Heiskanen of the Dallas Stars. This might be my favorite buy low candidate right now because what I'm seeing online is everybody panicking on him on Twitter, on Discord, on Reddit, on YouTube. And I want to tell you guys that you should absolutely not panic if you have him. And if you don't have him, you should trade for him. Last year, he had 11 goals and a total of 73 points in 79 games. And I understand that this was an outlier season for him, but that was his breakout, guys. He's 24 years old, and if you've watched Dallas Stars games, you know he is absolutely elite. He's getting 25 minutes and 20 seconds of ice time per game, and he's on that first line power play, getting a ton of power play minutes. This power play started off slow, but it was one of the best power plays last season, so it will bounce back, and Miro Heiskanen is going to start putting up a ton of points. I think the Stars are too talented not to bounce back, and I think Heiskanen is going to be a 70-point-plus player once again. Heiskanen is a defenseman. It's a scarce position, so buying low on him is going to help your team so much. Make sure you send out trades immediately because he is going to start producing, and you won't be able to get such a great discount on him anymore. All right, boys, that's the end of the video. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you in the next one.